Number 8. Julio Nivello. One of the most brazen thefts to have occurred in New York in recent history was carried out by Julio Nivello in 2016. The man had been a career thief ever since he'd come to the city from Ecuador in the late 1980s. He started with electronics before moving on to jewelry. As a result of his crimes, Nivello was deported to his native country 4 times between 1994 and 2008. He would make his way back to New York using aliases and fake passports. In September of 2016, he saw an opportunity to seize what he'd later describe as the Super Bowl of thefts. He spotted a large gold-filled bucket in the back of an armored truck in Manhattan. While the 2 guards were distracted, Nivello approached the back of the truck and then made off with over 90 pounds of gold. He would later state that the theft took him less than 10 seconds. Security cameras captured Nivello as he struggled to carry the heavy bucket down the busy Manhattan streets in broad daylight. After he took the loot to safety, Nivello realized that he had in his possession 2 massive gold bars, each about a foot long. He was able to quickly secure deals and converted the gold to roughly $1.6 million in cash. Even though the videos of the heist had started circulating around the world, Nivello managed to flee the US and reach Ecuador. He'd reportedly made plans with his then-fiancée to send him the rest of his money once he got settled. According to Nivello, the woman only sent him $50,000. What happened to the rest remains a mystery, but Nivello believes that his fiancée and her new lover had kept the cash in spite of her claims that the police had seized it. Nivello was eventually captured by undercover Ecuadorian officers, but wasn't extradited to the US. Because he had a good record in his home country, he spent less than a year in jail. His notoriety as the Golden Boy would ultimately condemn him to a life of paranoia in Ecuador. He feared being robbed or killed for the famed fortune that, according to him, he no longer possessed. Number 7. 303 East 51st Street crane collapse. On March the 15th of 2008, a crane collapse in Manhattan resulted in the death of 7 people. The incident occurred while a skyscraper was being built at 303 East 51st Street. Workers were attaching tower sections, meant to extend a 200-foot crane upwards. It's a procedure that's commonly referred to as jumping the crane. A steel collar meant to tie the crane to the skyscraper at the 18th floor fell as the crew was attempting to install it. A chain reaction ensued. A collar at the 9th floor, which served as a major anchoring point, also failed. A subsequent investigation would determine that the crew had used only half the amount of polyester slings recommended to keep the collar in place. As the collar fell, it damaged others in the lower levels. Left without any lateral support, the crane toppled. It landed on a 4-story residential building opposite to it, causing considerable damage. Mayor Michael Bloomberg referred to the crane collapse as the worst construction accident in New York's recent history. Aside from the fatalities, at least 24 other people were injured. Number 6. Erica Tishman. In December of 2019, a New York City architect was killed by a chunk of fallen masonry while walking down 729 7th Avenue in Midtown Manhattan. 60-year-old Erica Tishman's office was only a few blocks from the building. The mother of 3 was struck by debris that had fallen from over a dozen stories and was pronounced dead at the scene. The 17th story building dated back to 1915, and as recently as October, inspectors had noted damaged terracotta in its upper floors, which represented a falling hazard for the busy street below. The Department of Buildings had determined the structure to be a Class 1 violation, meaning that the owners were advised to urgently correct the issue. In spite of the professional assessment, the sidewalk sheds meant to protect pedestrians never went up. Scaffolding was hastily mounted on the building only after Tishman's death. There's an ongoing lawsuit filed by her widower against the city and the building's owners. It alleges they were aware of the risks months prior to the incident, but had done nothing to mend the situation. Number 5. Lance Margolin. In April of 2021, a 59-year-old man was fatally struck by a falling pole in Brooklyn. Lance Margolin, accompanied by his wife and a few of their friends, was returning from a birthday party shortly after 7 p.m. Around the same time, a Metropolitan Transportation Authority bus was navigating around a disabled vehicle and in the process hit a pole. Margolin's friends heard a loud bang and they'd initially thought that the man's wife had been hit by the vehicle. As they ran over, they saw Margolin with the pole lying on top of him. One of his friends managed to lift it, and Margolin was subsequently rushed to a hospital. Unfortunately, his injuries proved too severe and he passed away within a few days. The MTA bus driver was suspended pending an internal investigation. Number 4. Karina Vetrano. In early August of 2016, New York woman Karina Vetrano disappeared after she'd gone for a run in Spring Creek Park. Vetrano usually ran with her father, but he couldn't join her due to a back injury. He'd expressed concerns about her going out alone. After multiple call and texts had gone unanswered, Vetrano's father put together a search party. At around 11 p.m., he found her body face down about 15 feet from the trail. She'd been abused and strangled to death. Her neck had been squeezed so tightly that there was a palm print on her neck. Her panties and sports bra had been pulled down and she was covered in scratches and bruises. There was also evidence that she'd been struck in the back of the head with a rock. 30-year-old Vetrano had put up a ferocious fight, biting her attacker so hard that there were stress cracks in her teeth. The DNA of her attacker was found on her back, under her fingernails, and on her phone, which was recovered several feet away from her body. Hundreds of DNA samples were examined in the ensuing investigation, but the police were initially unsuccessful in finding a suspect. It took 6 months before the DNA from the crime scene was matched with that of 20-year-old Chanel Lewis. He lived in a low-income housing neighborhood in East New York, less than 3 miles from the park where Vetrano had been found dead. Lewis didn't have a criminal record, but was described as being mentally unstable and harboring feelings of hatred towards women. While still in school a few years prior, he reportedly told a teacher's aide that he wanted to stab all the girls. The night of Vetrano's murder, he'd returned home looking disheveled with a hand injury, as well as cuts and scratches on his upper body. Lewis told his family he'd been mugged by a group of men, but there was no evidence of such an attack. During Lewis's trial, a forensic biologist claimed that the chance of someone else sharing his DNA profile was 1 in 6 trillion. In April of 2019, he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Number 3. Robert Martinez. In 2018, a civilian working for the New York City Police Department was killed in a freak freeway accident involving a loose tire. 64-year-old Robert Martinez, who worked in building maintenance at the NYPD headquarters in Manhattan, was driving his Chevy Tracker on the Gowanus Expressway in Brooklyn. A rear tire from a garbage truck traveling in the opposite direction somehow became unhinged and flew over the center median. It hit Martinez's windshield, shattering it and causing him to crash into the divider. The emergency services found him unresponsive and rushed him to New York University Langone Hospital. Martinez had suffered extensive head trauma to which he eventually succumbed while hospitalized. This topic was first requested by Bobby Fitt and by many others since. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn about, subscribe and let us know in the comments section below. Number 2. Jared Woodbury. In January of 2020, 42-year-old Jared Woodbury turned himself in at the Manhattan Criminal Court, admitting that he was the man responsible for a string of recent robberies. Perhaps the most shocking aspect was that Woodbury had actually been arrested in the midst of his spree. Woodbury's MO involved handing notes to bank tellers in Brooklyn and Manhattan demanding money. After his 4th heist, Woodbury had been arrested but promptly released without bail on January the 8th. That's because on January the 1st, new bail reform legislation had taken effect which barred judges from setting bail for non-violent offenders. Sources claim that as he was gathering his belongings from the NYPD headquarters, Woodbury had expressed bewilderment and said, "I can't believe they let me out." Woodbury went on to rob 2 more banks, one of them less than 4 hours after his release. Even after he'd turned himself in and despite the obvious risk, there was still no legal grounds to hold him on bail under the new legislation. That's because he hadn't used a weapon or exhibited violence during his crimes. However, because one of the banks Woodbury had robbed was federally insured, federal prosecutors took control of the case. Unlike state legal authorities, they had the power to hold him. Woodbury thus faced federal bank robbery charges which held a maximum sentence of 20 years in prison. Number 1. Visaya Hoffy. On January the 11th of 2020, an Australian tourist suffered an horrific accident at the 14th Street Pass Station. 23-year-old Visaya Hoffy from Brisbane had tripped and fallen onto the tracks at around 4 a.m. She was wearing a dark puffy jacket and black jeans, which made her virtually invisible to the conductor of an oncoming train. Hoffy was run over by all 7 cars. 20 minutes after Hoffy's body had been left mangled on the tracks, another train was approaching. Fortunately, the woman's bright pink shirt had been exposed, making her more visible, and the conductor was able to stop in time. She was taken to Bellevue Hospital with head trauma and devastating injuries to her lower body. Hoffy had multiple surgeries that included the amputation of both her legs. The fact that she survived after being run over by a train was described as miraculous. According to the latest updates on her condition, the young woman had returned to Australia, where she continued her recovery. Thanks for watching. Be sure to click on one of the links on your screen for more videos.